He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat
Minutes! Citizens of fair Gotham, we've commandeered your speakers. We've turned your ear holes into a realm of chat. We're calling ourselves Bat Minutes and Robin.
Woo.
I am Niall McGowan, one of the hosts.
And I'm the other one, John Parker.
Hey, we made it to week 2. We're in this.
Yeah, we're here to kick some ice once more. Bam.
Into the bitter, bitter end. But we're joined this week by first guests of the season. A familiar voice to longtime listeners. We've got known pumpkin bomber, former ginger in Asia, and a man I hope I could trust to never cancel a pizza. It's Gaz Flint.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back.
Now,
I'm excited for what is about to go down.
As the listeners know from last week, I am here to be positive. Well, as positive as I can be. But I get the impression, Gaz, that maybe you have a very different opinion.
Well, I went into this because I watched this and Batman Forever a few years ago, and I was like, okay, I think Batman and Robin might be better than Batman Forever, because Batman Forever tries to be serious at times and it just doesn't. Well, no, not that it doesn't. It just doesn't pull it off.
I get what you mean.
Just
like 1 minute
weird
it's serious and it's silly.
Yeah, it's a weird contrast of, like you said, serious and silly. Whereas Batman and Robin is all silly and you can laugh at it. But I watched it again last night and it dragged. I'm not going to lie. But after like about halfway through, it stopped being funny. And then I was just like, God, why is this happening now? But I will say, for all the seasons of this podcast, I did enjoy the last season of Batman Forever the most, because I don't know, I think the worse the movie, the better the podcast, and there's more to talk about.
It's true.
And now, lads, this movie, oh God. I'm well looking forward to listening to the whole thing.
It's an experience, isn't it? It really is.
I actually think, I do think going through it minute by minute can only improve it, because you don't have to like the drag of like, oh yeah, big bloated 2-hour sit. It's more like, no, if you're going through it a little bit by bit, it kind of like you're listening to it longer over time, but it's more palatable.
Yeah, it's only going to be like 100 hours.
Yeah. But I think it'll go down easier when you're just like, oh yeah, a minute at a time. Okay, I can deal with that. But of course, speaking of minutes, this is minute 4, which begins with a Redbird ready to ride, and it ends 1 minute later with a bird's eye view. So yeah, let's jump on in here, like picking up where we left off there with the gradual ascent of the Redbird, which like, if these guys are going to an emergency, just getting these vehicles ready seems to take like goddamn 20 minutes every time.
It's like,
come on,
you know, like the beginning of Thunderbirds, where it take like just for panning out, it would take like 3 minutes for them to get all the rockets and stuff out. It's like, your international rescue, get on with it.
Go. There's a reason firemen have a pole. It's so they can go.
Everything about Robin, though, is always like, it's kind of like Batman, but slightly lamer. Because instead of batarangs, you had the throwing birds, like his little batarang things. And then you had like, the Batmobile. And now like, the Redbird. It's like, this kind of sounds lame.
Yeah.
Like in comparison, like even last movie, Bruce was showing off like his motorbike collection to Dick Grayson. I was like, oh yeah, this is a Black Knight. And it's like, Black Knight sounds pretty cool. Redbird. Yeah.
I don't know. Robin should be like the Dark Prince. Or something. Something that makes him sound young, but also dark. Although, Niall, I have one thing to say to you, right? Redbird's stupid. But you said it's not as cool as the Batmobile. But when you think about it, that's a lame name as well. The Batmobile.
It's a Bat automobile. Like, what's the realm?
And it just makes you think of the Pope-mobile.
This Batman has a big glass case that he just sits in waving to people in the back.
Why not? I mean, this Batmobile, he seems to be... Oh, we'll talk about that with me.
Isn't the Pope-mobile meant to be like indestructible, though?
I think
So it probably would be a good one to go into battle in.
That's a good point. I could imagine
And seeing
Mr.
as his
Freeze in it.
Batmobile gets destroyed in every movie, probably you should upgrade to a Pokemobile.
Yeah, because wasn't it? It was created to stop the Pope getting assassinated, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should actually have, though, maybe the Pope should go the other way. The Pope should start adding in, like, fins and stuff to the Popemobile.
And a giant jet engine.
He was like, yeah, I got in H.R. Geiger to design the latest Popemobile.
To be fair, though, the Pope probably would be a good Batman villain.
That sounds like a villain.
That's an area we might not want to go down.
Dick mounts his bird here. And of course shouts over, like, don't wait up, Al. And Alfred responds then with the hilarious line of, I'll cancel the pizzas. And I have so many problems with that, just in as a concept in general. Why would you cancel pizzas?
Well, they're going to be out now. They were going to be in.
But the thing is, pizza's good, if not better, cold.
No.
Oh, well, hold on.
I disagree. I don't like it cold. I'm not reheating it either.
I like it cold, but no, nothing beats a new fresh pizza that you've just got from like a good takeaway or whatever.
The thing is, these guys, they're going to come back after whatever happens to them. Come back in, there's nothing ready.
Oh,
you just
okay,
had
yeah.
pizza. The pizzas were there already. You're just like, okay, I'll have some cold pizza. You know,
Well-
it's still dinner. Like, it's
Well, you
still.
can put it in the oven and reheat it up. and it's
It
still
might
good,
be
I
out
guess.
for hours.
Well, even at that, I've had pizza like the next day.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's great.
I
So,
don't like it.
Not like a homemade. Like, specifically, it has to be one from a takeaway because like the integrity of the base is better. If you get like a one you make in the oven yourself, usually it turns into like shards of dough after that. But
My only problem with reheating them really stems from the cheese. I think the cheese goes weird to me. I like it to be like melted cheese. Whereas when you've left it and you heat it up again and that, it's kind of like a big layer of rubber.
yeah,
And it comes off in one bite. And you get the whole thing in your mouth.
Also have to say as well, the Schumacher Batman, kind of a trash diet. Like, considering last movie it was like, I persuade you to take a sandwich with you as I'll get drive-through. It's like, so he's swinging by McDonald's or something on the way. Now he's just lounging around eating pizza. It's like, is this Bruce Wayne? He's like, oh yeah, I just get like liposuction all the time. And then, I throw in a facelift every once in a while too, because I feel like it.
Is it the need to start each movie with some kind of fast food pun? Because that's who was probably sponsoring them.
Yeah, because I know Domino's weirdly they sponsored The Dark Knight. Because I remember seeing the ads and was like, that's such a serious movie.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that probably could have been like we're waiting for a sponsorship. If it's Papa John's, if it's Dom, we'll see who it is. And then it's like, nobody's called. Like, no, we'll cancel the pizzas.
But sir, Pizza Hut is already at the door. They've just knocked. You can't go.
It's like, again, just accept it. Again, Bruce Wayne, he's rich. Just like, again, that's putting the takeaway out of pocket. To cancel that, it's like you can just, even if you don't eat it.
It's another case though of Robin being played by someone who's too old. Like, I know we all love and eat pizzas, but in movie terms, it's always kind of an indication that a character is youthful and rebellious, isn't it? Like, yeah, they're radical. They eat pizza. They skateboard. They ride a bike.
Well, you say that, John. Last time we saw Batman eating pizza was during the hiatus when we reviewed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Batman, where he actually did eat pizza at the end. Have you seen that, guys? I know you're a big Turtles fan.
I've read the comic. I've not. They've made a cartoon of it now, haven't they?
Yeah.
Oh, we did a review of it, and let me tell you, that movie is way better than it has any right to be.
Yep.
It's fantastic. Like, I cannot recommend it enough. Like, if you got nothing going on later, find a copy and just watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Batman.
There's a comic book of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover with Ghostbusters as well, which isn't bad as well.
No,
Maybe it's
nice.
the turtle angle then. Maybe that just improves everything.
It might be that maybe like back in the day when they do crossovers, it was kind of people. It was just their job, and they were just like, throw these people together and whatever, it's for kids. But now in this generation, people who grew up loving Ghostbusters and the Turtles, they get their hands in that material and they're like, oh well, we can do something really good with this.
Yeah, because they
instead of
love
just
it
like,
and respect it.
yeah, so that could well be the case. But although I have to ask the question though, so we did see Batman eating pizza briefly. I think that was just like a generic pepperoni one he had in that though. But like, what do you think is the preferred? Like when they called in this order, for like presumably Alfred was getting it. Although again in that Turtles movie he hated pizza as well.
Well, yeah, that's another thing that's one thing that does bug me about it actually, and I think you were hinting at it earlier and you didn't get to it. Is that like Alfred wouldn't approve of this? He'd be cooking some fancy meal.
Yeah, I was just thinking that pizza's kind of like seen as commoner food, isn't it?
Yeah,
Batman's a billionaire.
Alfred makes vichyssoise, you know.
Well,
within the novelization, that's exactly what's happened. It's a completely different opening, and this is the thing that got me really excited. Was it opens with Bruce and Dick sitting at the dinner table, and they're kind of talking about like they're like looking at how nice this food that Alfred made is, and they're just like, oh, you know, I think he's trying to distract us from our duty. He's like, oh man, it looks pretty good though, and it's a kind of this really jokey scene of them pretending like they're resisting the temptations of the meal, but then I'm like, oh, let's go ahead, let's dig in, and then the bat signal goes off. But what Alfred's made for them there is lobster thermidor, which people who have seen the Lego Batman movie will be like, what? Because that was a whole thing, like in that movie, like when Bruce Wayne came home and he was just knocking about the Batcave by himself, he would just like reheat lobster thermidor in the microwave, and then just like float in the pool eating it by himself, and it was supposed to show how opulent yet incredibly lonely his life was because he had no one to share it with, and because that movie's so densely layered with references and stuff to like very obscure DC material. When I read that, I was like, I wonder if they were like, because the story of the Lego Batman movie is essentially the origin story of Robin, and I was thinking like maybe they're like, yeah, that was a reference to the Batman and Robin novelization.
It very well could be. I imagine they read.
It's a very obscure thing, isn't it? Lobster thermidor, so it must be.
The entire meal with lobster thermidor, wild mushroom risotto, julienne of gingered carrots, and zucchini, all tastefully arranged on a plate. Beside it, a perfectly chilled glass of Chateau Lafite Rothschild, 1956. That sounds like something Alfred would do.
Yeah, that sounds good, to be fair.
That sounds 100%.
Not that I don't like pizza. I do love pizza, but I think I'd rather have all that. But were you going to ask what kind of pizza would Batman and Robin have? Because I was thinking that too.
Well, dump all of that on a pizza then. There you go. That's
we'd have lobster pizza. Pizza. Caviar pizza. That's got to be a thing, surely, somewhere.
Probably. Oh, definitely. Someone out there has definitely done that. I think I imagine every form of food has been put on a pizza by somebody at some point just to see what happens. Because it's like, well, it's edible. Yeah, put it on the base. See what comes out.
I actually can't think what Bruce would have. Robin, though, I think would, if it's not just a straight up cheese pizza because he's a little kid, it would probably be something like a Hawaiian because it's not for everybody. Some people find it irritating and repulsive, which is Robin in a nutshell.
That's bizarre that you say that, John. That's crazy that you landed on that. Because I did briefly look in to see if there must be, if you just Google like Dick Grayson pizza, so much Batman and Robin information out in the world. Yeah. That's bound to be a thing. And yeah, there was some Reddit thread about him liking a specific type of pizza, and it's andouille and pineapple. So it's basically, because andouille is it's basically like a kind of chorizo.
Oh, like a sausage,
yeah. And pineapple. So it's like, yeah, apparently that's basically a Hawaiian pizza that he's asking for there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me, I think.
Like imagine with like Alfred, he'd be like, if they could find a pizza house to suit everyone, he'd be like, could I get the foie gras base, pheasant, and plum toppings, please?
And then the Domino's guy go, I'll have to call the manager. Hold on. Maybe, in the next scene, when he looks, well, not the next scene, literally seconds after he said that, when he looks ill. And then maybe he's just disappointed because you really wanted some pizza and he's just said he's going to cancel it.
It's like, but I'm so hungry.
I do like the implication that having Dick around the place has kind of changed both Bruce and Alfred. Because, again, they would not have eaten this. So I think it's meant to be his influence, isn't it? Like he's influenced the Batcave. He's influenced the whole preparation sequence, and he's influenced what they do in their downtime.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like even within the novelization too, the little back and forth between Dick and Bruce, where they're kind of playfully joking around about like, oh, Alfred always trying to distract us with these beautiful banquets and stuff. It does have a real think of like, yeah, these two guys are friends and stuff. It's and Bruce is a much more lighthearted guy because Dick's there, but he has he has a buddy to bounce off now and stuff.
Well, that's another way I'll defend this movie and maybe not defend Clooney's performance as such. But we can say that about, the change in Bruce and in Batman in this. People are like, oh, it's too silly. He's too lighthearted. He's joking around. Well, he's probably feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. I think that there is, because if you follow a through line from Batman Forever, that film was all about, particularly the Red Book edition, was all about him finding out the reason why he was so tormented was because he had repressed this memory of blaming himself for his parents' death, and Chase Meridian brought that out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of like, I've processed my feelings now. It could be that he's not Batman because he has to be. He's Batman because he chooses to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he is kind of like, this is my hobby now. like I started doing it, and it's fun. So yeah,
It's a bit like the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, in the draft, though, they have a bit of a different section of dialogue here, because Alfred says to Dick, "Drive carefully, Master Wing," because he's referred to himself as Nightwing already. Hasn't he?
Right, okay.
We talked about that last week. He's called himself
Master
Nightwing,
Wing.
so he calls himself Master. No, so Alfred calls him Master Wing, which I think is meant to be a little bit of a joke, like, "Oh, aren't you silly, calling yourself something like Nightwing?" But,
I don't know. I'd take that another way. It's like, I'd be like, isn't that nice that Alfred is so ready to adapt to the situation? Like, if Alfred's not a guy who would ever question your pronouns, he'd be like, "You okay? You're referring to yourself as he now, or she, or they? I will go along."
Alfred
with that.
says trans rights.
Yeah, and he's just like, "You okay? You're called Nightwing now. Fine. See you later, Mr. Wing." That's I think that's nice of him.
Hell yeah,
That he's considerate in that regard.
especially not to paint everybody with the same brush, but especially because he's old. They're often set in their ways and they don't change.
He'd be constantly like, "Yes, Mr. Robin." Like,
Ooh.
don't be a dick, Al. Don't be, well, actually, no, you can't even say that now with Dick Grayson in there. Don't be a dick. Well, don't be an asshole. Alfred, maybe then.
Oh, but you brought it up briefly there, Gaz. Alfred is not looking too well.
No.
Now, should we beat around the bush, or should we just straight up talk about what's coming with the character
Well,
in a way?
Is it in Deadpool 2 where he's like, yeah, it is when they're in the prison and you see what you later found out to be Juggernaut, like there's a big cell and he's like, and a whole health of, what does he say, something like, and a whole dose of healthy foreshadowing or something. But that's just what I thought when you just see Alfred suddenly looking sad and a bit ill.
Yeah, like I don't know, is the actor ill at this point? Because he's not looking his best, but that could just be the makeup and things.
I think he lasted a couple of years after this. I think he was going, because the Corpse Bride and stuff came out like when I was in university.
Yeah.
And that was like so that's 2005. This is 97. And he was in that. So
forgot about
I guess
that.
he hung on for another couple of years at least.
I think it's just Michael Gow's reaction that very second to realizing, oh God, this movie's going to be so bad. Why didn't I quit before the last one? Why didn't I quit when Tim Burton was still around?
Oh no.
The editors were supposed to take that out.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, I thought that was part of his character."
I did look it up though. Michael Gow's 81 here. He's not looking bad for an 81-year-old.
Oh no. He's still ticking. He's still going. He's strong. He's acting his heart out as best.
I do have to question though, how old is Alfred supposed to be? Because if Alfred's supposed to be 80 at this point, is he really going to be that good of a butler?
So maybe that's why they're ordering pizzas.
Oh yeah, he
Like,
can't
it's
cook
not-
them anymore.
That's a good point. Maybe he's like, you know what? I don't want to be mean. I don't want Alfred to cook every night anymore. He needs to sit down.
But yeah, so we also got a return of Dick Grayson's like, "Don't wait up, Al," which is I was always in favor of him calling him Al. I know you had beef with it, John.
Well,
but,
I don't want people to call him Al. Call me Al, because it's stupid. But it fits this character who is stupid, and of course he's going to call him something like that. So I love it and hate it.
But have you any strong feelings, Gaz, as a Bat fan? Are you just like, you only ever refer it's Mr. Pennyworth to you, sir?
No, I've got no problem with it. It's supposed to show that Dick Grayson's a bit younger. He's a bit more hip, even though, he's not.
It's just weird though, like in saying like, oh, it makes him sound younger and hip. But like any time I think of someone called Al, I think of like
Al Bundy?
a dock worker in their 50s with like a sweaty vest and stuff,
Yeah, but
chopping a cigar.
Alfred isn't exactly cool and young and hip, is it?
Yeah, Alf, maybe.
Alfie?
It was like of course there you get friggin' Michael Caine played Alfie. He's gonna play Alfred.
Everything's connected. And then you can go, hey, Alfie, baby. I always have to say it like that.
Alfie, Booby, I'm your white knight.
Booby, yes. But Batman, we see him in the aforementioned mobile, and the way Gordon calls him to talk to him and give him like the info, the update, is hilarious. I don't know why. I had to rewind it because I was laughing. It's very 60s.
Do you know exactly what it reminded me of? In Austin Powers with Basil Exposition.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. But like, obviously, Austin Powers is a spoof. But what's even more interesting, because, well, it is just pure exposition what Gordon's telling him.
Oh, yeah.
It's
just some of the worst acting I have ever seen him. This is the worst line delivery he's ever done. He's reading it off a sheet, and it's like the first take.
I think it probably was. It's like, oh, Pat, while you're here, we're doing some reshoots. Can you just come and say this? Like, don't worry, we'll crop you out, like your entire background out and stuff. You don't want to know where you are. He reminded me of what do you call those games where like Tim Curry was doing like the "I'm going where you can never find me" space.
It's a Command and Conquer Red Alert.
It looks like a cutscene from that. Nice.
It totally does, because they're done in this style as well, deliberately. All the Command and Conquer games are, even the original, the Tiberium series, where you're fighting against Kane. He'll deliver all this stuff exactly like that. So it was a vibe back in the day. Games when they started using FMV, as it's called, like Wing Commander, that had Mark Hamill in it.
Isn't Ric Flair in one of them?
Oh my God.
He's in one of the Command and Conquer games, I guess, just being Ric Flair and rambling.
Yeah. No, he is. You're right. Oh, which one is it? Because he's like an allied commander or something.
Yeah, he's got like a blue army outfit on.
There's loads of cool people and not so cool people who do it as well. Like, this is before she was a weird, like, anti-vaxxer and stuff, but Jenny McCarthy's in it and stuff.
Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah. You get
it's like all the kids who love these games love Jenny McCarthy.
Well, they would have done back then.
But yeah, she was looking good back then, and she wasn't out as being a weirdo.
Yeah.
Well, as much as one.
But back to Austin Powers, because I was like, hold on, wouldn't Austin Powers have come out around the same time? And I looked it up. Austin Powers came out 2 months before this did. So it's like there's so much of this movie is spoofed, or so many like tropes are spoofed in Austin Powers, which literally came out 2 months before. It's just like, I wonder if they'd finished editing it and stuff, people who are editing it and all the people who are making this movie, and then they watched Austin Powers and they're like,
well, that was going to be my question, right? Is do you think it harms this or helps this? Because you could look at it either way. It could harm it and make you think it's even sillier than it is. Or, it could add to it. Because it could lean into the silliness even more for you in your mind.
It depends how you look at it. If you look at this movie as like, oh, they were trying to make a silly movie and they were trying to make us laugh, then maybe. But I don't even think they were trying to... I don't think anyone cared. Like, Schumacher said he didn't care. Clooney clearly don't care because he's not even trying for most of the film. So, yeah, I think they were just like, oh, just get on with it.
I'm sure there's an interview I'm sure I read recently where Clooney was saying how, like, it came to him too young, almost. Like, he wasn't quite ready to be Batman. So maybe he was just like, I don't know, whatever. I'll just...
that guy from Gremlins coming and taking away the script, like, maybe someday you will be ready. But until then, Batman scripts stand with me.
But what makes it even weirder is there's, like, bongos playing. I don't know if there's bongos playing behind, and I'm like, I'm sure that happens in in Austin Powers, doesn't it?
Again, that's a very 60s thing. Yeah. Just having like bongos and like kind of jazzy bongo based soundtracks and stuff, because it was all like they're kind of not hipsters you would have called them then, but like beatniks, that kind of thing. It was in the air of that being a new fresh thing. So like the Man from U.N.C.L.E. or something probably had like bongos playing in the background during a lot of scenes. But this is very much like, just the fact that Batman's updated his tech to be like, instead of me going all the way to the bat signal, now Gordon has a direct line to me, which of course in the 60s show, Gordon had all the time, because he just had that red phone. I'm surprised this isn't literally a red phone. It's just in the damn car with him.
Oh, that would have been cool, actually. Yeah, at least make it red. That would have been a little nod.
Although they don't do that. But of course, knows now. We'll talk a lot more about it later on. But Gordon's had an outfit change, and basically he's wearing Chief O'Hara's uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they've just blended the two characters together. Like maybe they want to have Chief O'Hara here, and then like if we do that, we got nothing for Gordon to do, and they're like, oh, well, we already made the costume though. Like
They didn't make the pants though. That's why you can't see the bottom half of them.
Yeah. Watch out for that later in the movie. Like Pat Hingle's always behind a table.
Now, does Gordon know how ridiculous this is? Like how stupid he looks? Does he know Batman has invented Skype?
Maybe that's why he's just like he's a boomer on Zoom.
Yeah.
He's just, I'm not too sure how I'm supposed to use this.
He's accidentally got a filter on, so he looks like a cat.
He's got the O'Hara filter on. That's why he's got the cap and stuff.
That explains it. There you go.
And then later on, people will be like, "That really suited you, Jim." It's like maybe I'll buy myself one of those uniforms.
Well, then after he's explained who Mr. Freeze is, Batman just says, "Mr. Freeze." I was like, "Yep, he's just told you that."
Yep.
Why did you need to repeat it?
I think I got the vibe from Batman that he's kind of like rolling around his head, like, okay, what weirdo is it this time? It's like he's commandeered the museum and turned everyone into blocks of ice. He's calling himself Mr. Freeze, like Mr. Freeze. Okay, that's what I'm dealing with today.
Oh
like,
God!
Last week it was friggin' Paste Pot Pete or whoever, Killer Moth or one of those assholes. Now, like, Mr. Freeze. Okay. Unless he's just like, this could be all Bruce is thinking, is like, I want a direct info about the crooks before we get there so I can come up with a good quip when I enter. Because hanging around with Dick Grayson now, I was like, oh yeah, this kid's so quippy and everyone's so impressed. Like, oh, he's the young, cool kid, the new partner, the new kid in the block. So Bruce is like, all right, I'll get a head start on him. Leave the cave first. Gordon feeds me all the info so I can think of good lines when I show up to say, and everyone will be like, oh, that Batman, yeah, he's so cool, he's so clever and witty, man.
I love that idea.
After that, it comes up with, in my opinion, the true stamp of for any movie, written by Akiva Goldsman.
Yeah.
Now, have you watched Angry Video Game Nerd whenever he gets annoyed at LJN games?
Yeah.
No.
Well, on Angry Video Game Nerd, he'll like in the early series, he used to review a lot of like NES games, and they'd often be like licensed games of movies. And he's like, "Oh, okay, this looks quite good." But then he'd see there was a game company called LJN, and it was a little rainbow, and every game that they made was terrible. And then he'll see the little LJN rainbow, and they'll just get angry and be like, "Oh God, here we go! The meter just got dialed up." And that's me. That's literally me whenever I watch a movie and I see written by Akiva Goldsman. But what has that guy done that's any good? I don't think he's actually done a good movie.
I think he won an Oscar, though.
How?
That doesn't mean anything.
How?
Yeah, like for a beautiful mind. But that's the thing. Yeah, you are right. That's bizarre too, because if you've like watched the making of documentaries around this, he's there too, going like, yeah, I was very worried about the script as well. And a lot of people wouldn't think this of me, but I think these movies need to be as dark and nuanced as possible. But that's not the way they went with this one. It's like, you wrote the script, Akiva. The blood is on your hands too. But as if he was trying to separate himself. It's like, oh, Oscar-winning screenwriter Akiva Goldsman knew there was problems, but didn't say anything. You wrote Transformers the last night, you dick. You're not above any of this.
I'll defend his statement, though, right? Because he might have just written what he was told. Like, what we want you to do, Akiva, write us a script. Here's some points. This has to be in it. That has to be in it. It has to have this kind of tone. They probably give you these directions. We know at this point the studio is in control. They didn't want another Burton situation where someone just goes insane and does what they want.
That's all fair enough, though. Like, and if it was just like, oh yeah, stellar career beyond this film.
No, I agree.
Fair enough. Yeah. But now it is just like, oh yeah, the Dark Tower movie that was atrocious.
I Love a Beautiful Mind.
Fifth Wave, all that stuff.
Well,
you're like, ugh.
Anyway, so I Googled when I saw that, and I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, I know this is a PG show, but that man angers me. But anyway, I Googled Akiva Goldsman just to see what would come up. And there were some really good articles that commented on this movie. So the AV Club wrote an article on just about how bad he is in general. And I scrolled through it and I found the bit when they were talking about Batman and Robin. And to quote, this is what they wrote. Best of all, the famously franchise-seeking Batman and Robin. Goldsman is the man to thank for all those freeze puns and grown adults acting like 7-year-olds.
So he's the person whose hand I have to shake for this
Yeah,
masterpiece.
and then I found something on a website I'd never seen before called pajiba.com, which just sounds like a general kind of culture website. And they say, right, about this movie and Akiva Goldsman, reason doesn't enter the equation when it comes to Batman and Robin, a movie that defined the concept of so bad it's good. This is no mere pun machine of a movie. This is the tesseract of puns, each deeper and more mind-boggling than the last. Every Mr. Freeze pun is exquisite torture, somewhere between bad children's party entertainer and drag queen review.
Yes.
Half the time you can't believe what you're hearing and convinced it's all some twisted social experiment on the futile existence of artistic expression in Hollywood. It's not, of course, it's just hack work. It killed the Batman franchise on the big screen for several years until Christopher Nolan came along.
Oh, that was beautiful.
The thing is, like, up until that last little bit, that was like, yeah, kind of makes me want to watch the movie. Because it just makes it sound like it's, oh, you have to see this thing. It has to be seen to be believed.
But considering it goes overboard, right? There's one place I feel it actually is too restrained and too... Maybe it is just because they wanted to speed things along, right? But this introduction to Mr. Freeze... Well, I say introduction. They just bring up, oh, yeah, by the way, there's a new guy, Mr. Freeze. He freezes people. Yeah, can you go get him? Like, the drama's taken away.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I was writing a Batman movie, which, yeah, thank God I haven't because I'm terrible at writing. Why doesn't Batman have to investigate why the place is getting all frozen up?
Because Akiva Goldsman's been told to just write a script, just introduce him in 3 seconds. All right, there we go.
I think that is the reason. It's like, well, we just want to get Freeze on the screen any minute now. Just get him on.
Yeah.
Get him on. It's fine. Just get there.
The thing is that there is like a bit more, again, in the novelization, they kind of they build a bit more intrigue because this little thing with Gordon doesn't happen. But they've got some info over, like, you know, the police wires or whatever you'd call them, the police radio. And as Batman and Dick are driving along, they're talking to each other, and they're like, okay, so what do we got? And it's just like, oh, there's been a load of police cars frozen on the freeway, and there's some kind of giant tank burrowing its way towards the museum. And from that, you're a bit like, ooh,
That's well better.
what's happening?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, what's happening there?
But then it cuts to the Museum of Art, which I'll talk about next minute because I've got a huge problem with this.
Oh.
But it's the exterior of the Museum of Art, and I'm guessing that's a miniature as well.
Oh, that would definitely have to be, because it's like, yeah.
It reminded me a lot of the museum in Arkham City. It looks exactly like that, doesn't it? Like the exterior.
Oh, yeah, it does.
of
Like that. Yeah, I thought that, but actually, yeah, it does very much so.
Maybe that's deliberate. Yeah, I never thought about
Possibly, yeah. Or that's, I don't know if it's turned up before in the comic books, and that's just what the Museum of Gotham looks like.
Oh, no. I think it's very specific to the Joel Schumacher verse and whatnot to have it, like, you know, it be designed this way. Because, you know, he had this whole thing with Grecian statues and stuff been all around Gotham. And we had a deeper meaning we found in them last season and stuff as well. Yeah. But yeah, this one has, again, I was actually trying to decipher what was going on, and, you know, really beautiful carving at the front. And it appears to be like a woman standing in the center with all these people kind of bowing down almost in praise to her. And I was like, I guess it could be because he's all about Grecian art. So it could be this is Athena, who was like the goddess of arts and crafts and stuff back in ancient Greece. So maybe that's where they're going. Like, Athena then is one of the allies of Wonder Woman in the comics at one point. So could be that's what they're going for. But
they're setting up a cinematic universe.
I think they just thought, oh, this will just look big and grand and important.
Probably. with what we know about this movie, probably that.
Yeah. If it was any other movie, I'd be like, no, that's for a reason. But this one, I'm like, no, they've not thought that through. Which is what I'll talk about in the next minute, because it's really annoyed me.
Oh, we can move on the next minute of
yeah.
Well, the only more notes I've got is that the last thing we finally see in this minute, it finally comes up with directed by Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, because who would have guessed he's back?
Well, let's say I have so much warmth and affection for Joel Schumacher now. I'm like, damn right, directed by Joel Schumacher. And he shouldn't be ashamed.
Nah.
He should wear it proud.
Well,
Yeah,
he
I
actually
don't
came
think he
off
should've.
this movie fine, didn't he? Like, he went back and did he do Tigerland after this? And he actually did some...
Tigerland, Phone Booth.
He did some good films.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all much smaller scale, quite notably.
It's probably what he wanted to do. He's probably just like, because he knew this film was...
Oh,
He
yeah,
probably
he's
just
apologized
was-
for it. I don't think he should have apologized, though. That's, own it. Own it.
So he probably just
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna do a big budget movie. I'm just gonna find my roots again. And yeah, fair play.
My whole thing, I think of, because I watched the movie he did between this and Batman Forever, A Time to Kill. And if you watch that film, it's so fucking dark and serious and heavy. I'm really thinking that he came into this been like, I just want the most lighthearted thing I could possibly do. I kind of wonder if he hadn't made A Time to Kill in between, if he would have vented into a more even-handed Batman film instead of like, I just want something fucking light and fluffy because I don't want to have to deal with. That last movie was about Samuel L. Jackson killing the people who sexually assaulted his 10-year-old daughter. Like that's how serious a film it is.
I've not seen that.
And it's just like,
Jesus.
next one, it's fucking Arnie freezes stuff, and there's a lot of goofy crap happens in it. Like that's the movie.
Hey, and I got what I wanted out of it. That's what matters. He made the movie for me. The only other note I have isn't very interesting, to be honest. It's about Robin's bike. I didn't bring it up before. I have the specs.
Okay.
So it is 10.5 feet long, which is 3.2 meters. Did the conversion there for you. And
10.5 feet. 10.5 feet long. That's wow.
Yep, it's a big. It's a Honda prototype with 95 horsepower, if that means anything to anyone. I know we have gearheads in the listeners group. And it can go from 0 to 180 miles per hour in 6.9 seconds. 69, dude.
That sounds fit for a superhero.
Yeah, it sounds fast. I don't know anything about vehicles. It sounds quick for the length of it. Especially like you'd imagine a bike that big would be slow.
I have to ask you though, guys, because we're flipped now from last season. Because you might recall, I loved that Kilmer mobile. Fucking hate this thing. The Batman. It just looks. It looks like a giant. But it looks like a giant toy to me. And John, of course, now the other side, he just absolutely loves this thing.
Everything in this film looks like a giant toy.
Yeah.
That's probably why
fine.
it was done.
Lean into it. Just go all the way. The last one didn't go all the way.
Just have like a giant child's hand coming down, moving it along.
So do you like it or not? Or
I've got no opinion of it. It's just like, to be fair, it's not the most garish thing in this film.
yeah, which is shocking, really.
I know.
When they submitted the design, that was the best review they got. It's not the garish thing in this film.
Go with it.
Put that on the poster.
Have you heard though, guys, the ongoing rumor of why the tensions on set of the Batman?
I've heard that there are some, but it just sounds like, it's been such a stop-start trouble production because of COVID that, yeah.
I think that will be the actual explanation as to why things are tense. But the rumors come out that apparently Matt Reeves was furious because he found he went on set one day and found Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz having sex on the Batmobile because they were just bored. And they're just like,
hey,
of
course you would. If you are in Batman and you're having a fling with your co-star, you're going to wear the outfit and go onto the car, right?
Although the other day though, because the finished the wrapped filming now. And Matt Reeves put up a thing where he's like, oh yeah, last day. And he showed like a bunch of random stuff. And I'm surprised the internet hasn't gone into more of a fervor trying to decipher what the things are. But there was a thing on, and I was like, guys, it reminded me of you instantaneously because it has the clapperboard of like whatever day it was. And then it looks like it's a card, which I'm assuming is one of the Riddler's riddles. But it's like a little boy holding a monkey on a lead. I was like, a monkey on a lead! It's a monkey on a lead!
Why did that make you think of me?
The Ginger in China. You had that episode with you filming the guy with the monkey on the lead.
Right, yeah.
That's now
Jesus.
like your catchphrase to us, guys.
Oh, yeah,
Really?
me and Jimmy watched that. Like, oh yeah, we were howling at laughter at that for like a week.
Jeez, that's like That's nearly 6 years ago, you know.
Oh my god, I thought it was like 2 years ago. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's why I can't
Well, you
remember
might
it.
have found maybe Matt Reeves was like, oh, I was a big fan of that Ginger and China series, but like, I just remember, the monkey on the lead. I want to work that into my vision.
Oh yeah, no, I do remember that now because that guy who had a monkey on the lead was staring at me like I was the weirdo. Yeah, no, I do
Like standard
remember. It.
protocol in China. You have your protector monkey or
You've
whatever.
got to take your monkey for a walk. So we will go now.
Although actually, in theory, though, because Matt Reeves did those 2 Planet of the Apes movies, maybe it's more of a reference to that.
Yeah.
So a guy imprisoned a monkey. He's got a monkey on a lead.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually are finding Easter eggs, and the film isn't even close to coming out yet.
We're going to do a minute by minute before it comes out. We're going to talk about how we think each minute will go.
That'd be a really good idea.
So in the next minute,
Make up our own Batman
I don't know.
movie
If
before
this
it
might
lands.
sound really pervy, but because Matt Reeves and I walked in on Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz having sex on the Batmobile, I'd probably just be like, "Yeah, carry on."
yeah, I'll give
You
you
wouldn't be
privacy.
like, you wouldn't get. I don't know. You wouldn't get angry. You'd probably just be like, "What the hell is going on?"
And we all know Joel Schumacher probably had sex with someone on the Batmobile. So it's
Joel
fine.
Schumacher would have probably tried to join in.
Probably.
That's the reason there's all new vehicles. Is like, I want to have sex in different vehicles every time.
Oh god, I'm sure that's all going to be a bonus episode right there. The last 10 minutes, we will depart into the dark, dark night. We're going to go and walk our monkeys on leads. Gaz, would you like?
If that is a bonus episode, now that being in the main episode is going to make any sense.
That's a good point. That is a good point. So maybe at least some of it stays in. Gaz, would you like to tell our listeners where they can find you online or anything, or plug anything you've got?
You can find me. I'm on Facebook, Gaz Flint. But I've been saying every time I've appeared on the show in the past, I've got a band called Pumpkin Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently inactive. So things will come. However, we are back together.
Hey.
And when the world stops ending and things open up again, we should hopefully be doing stuff. I'm hoping to get some new recordings done soon.
Hey.
So when they are done, they will be on listening platforms. So yeah, Pumpkin Bomb.
Excellent.
The nerds will understand that name. So yeah, just look us up.
It took me a really depressing amount of time to get it. I just thought, oh yeah, you like pumpkins and stuff. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and it's punk, so it's like explosive. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's why I like it. It just works on lots of different levels.
Well, yeah, because then after about a year, I was like, oh, wait a minute, Spider-Man. Well, not Spider-Man, but you know. So yes, check that out, everybody, and come and speak to us on Facebook at the Batminute Listeners Cave and all the usual Twitter, Instagram. Just look us up, Batminute. And Patreon is your #1 destination for helping us and getting extra cool, bonus, super fun things. So do that, and we will see you again on Wednesday for more Bat Minute Forever.
I think John meant to say Batminute and Robin there. But anyway, next time, ice to see you. Feelings of fear can be felt on a frosty breeze as a new felon is found in the form of Mr. Freeze. Some shivering security is brought before this Arctic monarch to behold, but will their pleas of mercy leave him feeling cold? The Iceman arriveth on Wednesday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.
back.